Hi, this is Pastor Barry, and this is the supplement video for the first Discipleship Essentials lesson, Making Disciples. Before we get into the actual lesson, in each video, I'm going to try to give a short encouragement or hint for maybe how you could do your small group a little bit better. And this week's hint is fairly simple. It's encourage everyone in your group to participate. The best groups are not groups where the leader does all or most of the talking, nor are they groups where the leader asks a question and then another person gives the answer, and then the leader asks a different question and then somebody else gives an answer, so that the leader is talking after every single person that's participating. What you want is a kind of dynamic in your group where you ask a question to kind of get people onto a subject. Somebody says something, and then maybe somebody else in the group asks them a question or responds to them directly. Maybe they see it a little bit differently. You can help that dynamic by asking follow-up questions. So you ask a question, someone gives an answer, and then rather than going to the next question, you can say, what do other people think about that? And give enough time for people to actually respond. But what you want is a dynamic where people in your group are talking to each other and not just to you. The way they illustrate this in the Alpha group training, which if you've not seen is really great, is they use a ball. I didn't have a ball, so I grabbed the thing that was closest, a Rubik's Cube. Maybe that says something about my personality. But anyway, they use the ball and they say that whoever is talking has to hold the ball. And so if I'm talking the whole time and I'm just holding the ball, that's not going to be a good group. If I talk and then I toss the ball to you and you talk and you toss it back to me and I talk, then I toss it to somebody different and they talk and then they toss it back to me and I talk. You can see that dynamic where I talk between every other participant's answer. And we don't want that. That's more like a classroom. What you want is for the ball to go from one person to another person to another person and back to you occasionally, but then back out so that people can share the ball. So, or in this case, the cube. So encourage people to participate. It is better to rephrase a question than to give up on people and just give the answer. And if you need to, if you find that your group is exceptionally quiet, you can stop the conversation, just ask them what's going on. You just say, I want to stop us here just for a minute and have us take a step back and ask, what's happening here? Do people not understand the question? Did we not prepare for this lesson, or are we tired, or are we distracted by thinking about something else? And then let people talk, find out what's going on, and then you can have a chance once it's all out on the table to bring it to the Lord in prayer and then continue in your conversation. So that's your hint for today. Encourage everyone in your group to participate. Well, here are some reflections on chapter 1, Making Disciples. The first thing is, I thought that the big idea for this chapter was really good. Discipling is an intentional relationship in which we walk alongside other disciples in order to encourage, equip, and challenge one another in love to grow toward maturity in Christ. Now that's a mouthful, but what he usually has you do at the beginning of each of these lessons is pick out keywords and phrases that kind of jumped out at you. And I had a few. The first one is that discipling is intentional. We influence people all the time, whether we intend to or not. But in the case of discipling, it's intentional that we're trying to influence somebody. We're making it our goal that they would be influenced. And I think that's one of the places where some of us are a little bit shy. Secondly, it's a relationship in which we walk alongside other disciples. So, A, it's a relationship. And secondly, we walk alongside them. We live life together, and we don't necessarily put ourselves over people, though in some situations maybe we're older, more experienced. That will be natural. But always we walk alongside people to be able to speak into their life and to encourage and equip and challenge them forward. The last thing I'll pick out of the definition at this point is that it includes equipping the disciple to teach others as well. Many of us think of discipleship as gaining knowledge, But discipleship is a lot more than that. One way of thinking about discipleship is that a person isn't really fully a disciple until they can make disciples. So what we want is not just for somebody to become very smart about Jesus, but we want them to learn how to invest their lives in others the way that we're investing in them. Last thing I'll say about discipleship, by this definition, is that it's not just one-on-one. Often people think of discipleship as being mentored by one other person. Certainly it can be done that way. But what he talks about is walking alongside other disciples to encourage, equip, and challenge one another. So it's this kind of mutual thing. You don't have to be a lot more experienced or a lot more knowledgeable than somebody to help disciple them. Just in walking alongside someone and being intentional, you can invest in them and they can invest in you. And I really think that all discipling relationships are somewhat mutual. We don't always give the same things to one another. An older Christian may have knowledge that they're giving to a younger Christian. Younger Christian may give back enthusiasm and energy and love for Jesus. So we don't always give the same things to each other, but we should be sharpening one another. Just because somebody is more experienced or more knowledgeable in the faith doesn't mean that we can't be intentionally influential in their lives. With regard to the inductive Bible study, I said in the previous video, I don't think these studies are all that inductive. He clearly has a topic that he's going after and questions that he's trying to answer. But I do think the Bible study questions are decent. One of the questions that I wanted to focus on here is, in what ways do we see Jesus making disciples here? And I saw all kinds of things in this Luke 6 passage. It looks like he is preparing them to do his ministry. In other words, to do the things that he did. And so they got to watch him do it, and then he sent them out to do it. So he gave them assignments. And this is an important thing for us to think about as budding disciple makers, is discipling is not just giving people a book and having them learn knowledge. We sometimes will give them assignments. They need things to do to help them live out the things that they're learning. And then after they go out and complete the assignment, they come back and they check in with Jesus to talk about how it went. And in Jesus' case, I'm sure he was more supervisory with them. But in our case, even if you're sort of more of a peer with the people in your group, you can just share together what you learned, how it went, and kind of try to help each other. I think often what happens to other people is a lot more obvious to interpret than what's happening to us. And so we really do need one another. I thought that the personal application that was listed in that sample lesson that I gave you for lesson 1. By the way, those sample lessons were adapted from First Presbyterian Church of Boulder in Boulder, Colorado. So wanted to give credit where credit's due. I did edit it a little bit, but not a ton. So this is largely their personal applications, and I think they are excellent. I encourage you to save enough time to do these in your group, or at least to do part of it in your group. Maybe you can send them home for the rest. But the first personal application was to make a list of people that have been influential in your discipleship. Who has helped you to grow? Who has helped you to learn? It might be somebody at Lighthouse. It might be somebody at a campus fellowship that you were in, or a good friend that helped to not only to lead you to Jesus, but to learn how to read the Bible and that sort of thing. Think about how they impacted your life, and then if you get a chance, make it a point to call them or write a note just to thank them for the influence that they had on your life. I especially want to encourage you to do this for people that are not pastors. I mean, obviously, if you've been influenced by Wayne or one of the other pastors at Lighthouse, of course it's a good thing to thank them for that. But I think the people that never get thanked for these things are lay people that are small group leaders or Sunday school teachers who are investing week after week, and no one ever says anything to them. And so if you've got somebody like that in your life, go ahead and take some time to give them a call or write a short thank you note for the time that they took to invest in you. And then you can encourage the people in your group to do that as well. In fact, if you wanted to, you could bring like nice stationery and that kind of thing. You guys could actually take some time to write a brief note right in your group. The other assignment here is to make a list of people in your life in whom you might invest. And then to contact one of those people and invite them to go for coffee or for a walk, etc. And just try to get to know them better. People don't want to be your project, so don't make them a project. Take a genuine interest in them. Pray for them, find out about their life, and really love them right in the middle of the things that they're doing. Last thing I'll say about this particular lesson, Greg Ogden is really good about asking the question, what other questions does this subject raise for you? And after I read the reading, which is also excellent, I encourage you guys to do the reading for this lesson. My question was, can the church bear this teaching? And I pretty much agreed with everything that he said in this lesson. You'll find out later that that's not true of every lesson. I don't agree with all of them. But in this case, I totally agree with him, and I do think that this is the right priority, not just for churches, but for Christians, to ensure that they are investing time and energy in reproducing all of the things that God has entrusted to them in the lives of other people. But that means not trusting what you and others can see, but believing that investment in a few people is the way to make the greatest impact. You know, we're in America especially, we're so in love with large groups. And so, you know, if we have 400 people coming on Sundays, which we do, we think that that's great. But if we had 500, that would be even better. And if we had 600, we would know that that was good. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be good. I'm actually praying that that will happen. But if we are not giving away the things that God has entrusted to us and seeing them reproduced by the Holy Spirit in the lives of other people, then we're just getting a larger and larger group of people. But I'm not sure that we're really fulfilling Jesus' command to teach them to observe all that he commanded us. So what we want to do is we want to make disciples who can make disciples. So that's my encouragement to you this week. If you have any questions, feel free to call or email. Thanks for your kind attention, and God bless you as you lead this first lesson in Discipleship Essentials.